Gosh, it's amazing for
It's
those.
so good.
It's so good. For those of you watching on our YouTube channel, we have a heck of an intro, but we're being a little bit too upbeat. We're being a little bit too cheery because
Oh, sorry.
this,
Yeah, that's right. We got to be really dragged out this episode, right?
yeah, this is a heavy episode, and I know that many of you have stuck with us since earlier this year when we did an episode about death and funerals and Star Wars. This
Even after
episode,
that, you're still here.
we're you're still here. And we thank you for that. But this episode's going to be all about Order
Well,
66.
wait,
And
wait. You didn't say like welcome. Where's the big like welcome?
uh,
We're just gonna
welcome.
jump right into it.
Yeah, you're right. We need to have a soft landing. Welcome to episode 66 of the Star Bros podcast. I'm joined by my bro host, Ben Skywalker,
I'm joined by my bro host Jan Solo.
and we're calling this one Execute episode 66.
Because you didn't like any of my other ones again.
No, you've always got great ones.
I appreciate that. You
But
didn't like Lucky Caller 66?
we could have done something like that. Yeah, that was good.
No, I really liked where we landed.
But look, before we go off the deep end into what you called one of the most critical moments in all of Star Wars history, and sort of a dark and painful one in a lot of different
Mhm.
ways, how you doing?
I'm doing okay. I'm living the bachelor life right now, as you know.
Yeah,
Susan decided to just, get up and go away for a few days, which is, good for her.
yeah,
She gets a
absolutely.
break, a well-deserved break. And meanwhile, I'm living my best bachelor life. And Andrew WK would be partying ragers for, really long periods of time. No, I'm just kidding. It's only been a few hours and I'm bored. I'm glad I'm talking to you because otherwise I don't know what I would be doing right now, eating cookie dough.
Hey, that
Actually, that
doesn't
sounds
sound like a
good right
bad
now.
Saturday night.
No, that does. It doesn't. No.
Totally, totally.
Anyway, that's all I'm doing right now. What about you?
Well, I'm doing well. I'm glad that you and the kids are having a good Saturday together, a good weekend together.
Yeah,
I'm good, dude. It's Super Bowl weekend, and
it is.
we, as many of you know, we are part of Bro Axiom, which is mostly a crew of people who are based in Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love, and our beloved Philadelphia Eagles are in the Super Bowl tomorrow.
But
And
unironically, our captain, our leader, Chris Ryans himself, is not an Eagles fan.
yeah, which is okay. But
It
look,
is okay. It's just very funny.
it is funny, but we're all fans of Philadelphia, and we all want to see the city be happy and do well. Which is why I'm a little bit worried because I feel like win or lose, they're going to burn the place down. So please be careful out there. Exercise caution. And there is nothing better than celebrating respectfully when the Eagles win the Super Bowl.
Yes.
I'm saying that, and I'm going to lock my doors and turn off the lights and hide inside as the fireworks go off. And the Crisco cops. Have you heard of the Crisco cops?
I know exactly what you're referring to. They're going to be putting Crisco on like all the lampposts
It
and
doesn't
street
stop anybody
lights.
though. If you really want to climb a lamppost at like midnight on a Sunday, you're going to do it. You're going to find
Yeah.
a
Oh
way. Your
yeah.
friends are going to help you. It doesn't matter.
Just get a ladder.
It deters the people who are just level-headed and calm enough to be like, I shouldn't go up there anyway. But if you've committed, you're going to find a way.
I
So
mean,
be
you'll
safe.
do anything if your team wins the Super Bowl, or if it doesn't. If you need to exercise some anger,
Yeah.
um,
They're going to win though. We're going to be okay.
let's keep our fingers crossed from that for that. Two things on that topic. Well, three things actually. Three things. One, Super Bowl is an important thing for Susan and I because that's when we met. Was on Super Bowl Sunday many years ago.
At a Super Bowl party or something?
Ironically, no. I got back from watching the Super Bowl and then had her come over and hang out for a little bit.
No way. Oh my
So
goodness.
we didn't watch it together because I already had plans. We just met on Super Bowl Sunday and we were like, well, come over after the game and hang out for a little bit. I
Okay,
don't remember
cool.
who played. It was
It
let's
wasn't a
see.
game that like you particularly cared about?
No, it was just a game. Like it's just to watch it, right? Because we
Yeah.
love watching Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And
That's what
it
we do.
was 12
That's what
years
we do in
ago.
America.
I know, America. Watch the Super Bowl and drink beer.
And ignore the metric system except when it comes to Coca-Cola and Pepsi.
that's America summed up right there.
We watch football and we get a 2 liter of Pepsi and stay up all night because we're all wired.
Yeah, exactly. And declare the next day a national holiday if we could.
Absolutely.
We should petition for that. I still
But
believe it.
anyway, you're watching the Super Bowl.
That was one thing. I'm forgetting the other two now. I don't even remember. What were we talking about? The Super Bowl?
We were talking about Order 66 and how
Oh, that was one of my things. It was going to be a bad transition. It was going to say, we're either way, we're going to execute Order 66 in Philly on Sunday. It's going to be, it's just going to be chaos. Come on, react to that. Why aren't you reacting to that?
Everybody just be cool. Let's not climb any flagpoles. Let's not climb any. Let's do Order 65, which is you get a delicious cheesesteak and then you go home and you don't hurt anybody or yourself.
Be good. That would be good. No, I just meant the chaos, man. That's all I meant. Nothing worse than that. No, but then the third thing I just remembered was I remember when the Eagles won 2018, and having grown up in Michigan where the Lions are just terrible. I texted my dad after that and I said, "Hey Dad, guess what? I got to know what a Super Bowl's like before you did."
Oh my gosh.
And he did.
Ouch.
Like that. It was sad. Anyway, we're not here to talk football.
No.
We're here to talk hockey. No, what was the other one? Star Wars.
Yes.
Let's do that.
Yeah, let's do that. Shall we transition to our first big segment of the evening?
We shall, and that one is called News from Across the Galaxy. That poor guy.
Yep.
Just went through Order 66.
Yes, he did. Rip. Right, where would you like to
Rip
begin?
Guy. I don't know. There's a lot of little nuggets of news that came out. So let's save Bad Batch for the end.
Okay.
Maybe I'll give our first little nugget.
Sure.
For those who like to read Star Wars novels, well, E.K. Johnston, who has done a lot of the Padme novels and things that have come out in recent years, has announced a new book that'll be coming out all about the character Kira. Crimson Climb is what it's called.
Cool.
And still no real details on it. There's speculation that it'll be before the events of Solo, like somewhere in between the initial scene on Corellia and as she kind of rises through the ranks with Maul and what's his name, the other guy, the Voss.
Yeah,
Dryden Voss, right?
Voss.
Yeah. So it's still kind of up in the air where it's going to go. Maybe it's after the events of Solo, but dive a little bit more into Kira and her backstory. So,
which is
I'm
cool.
excited
A lot of people love that character. A lot of people loved Emilia Clarke as that character, but I think in general, thanks to the comic books and the movie, there are a lot of people who just want to know more. What's with Star Wars going back, though? When are we jumping ahead a little bit?
I don't know. We're just filling out this timeline, all the different gaps in the timeline we can find right now, it feels.
Yeah. That's one of the things that I'm looking forward to about Taika Waititi's Star Wars movie is I think he wants to get off timeline. I think he wants to go to some corner of the galaxy at some point in time that feels a little bit less connected to other Star Wars stuff, but is still Star Wars.
With new characters and everything, right?
New character.
Not Chewbacca's grandma.
I'm excited about that. So I'm excited about Kira, but I'm also excited to sort of get away from maybe filling the timeline regularly. And it's not a knock. It's cool. Like I want to know how Kira, or how her story played out over the course of those years. But would also be interesting to hear, a little bit after the events, or from some other perspective.
I agree with you, and I just hope that I would be open to maybe filling in the timeline when she comes into Crimson Dawn for the first time, and how she kind of rises to the ranks before the events of Solo.
That would be totally cool. Sure.
But I also really want to see Emilia Clarke come back as the character, if it's all possible. Like make Solo 2 happen, that'd be nice. So don't do too much where you start taking away from what she'd be capable of doing if she came back for something. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, but at the end of the day, I'm just open for it all. I'm glad that it's not a character that's dying on the vine. Like she's started just a couple years ago, to get fleshed out a bit more in comics and things. So, glad we're getting some more of her. But anyway, that's one piece of news. What do you got?
Oh, I got a really good one for you.
Okay, shoot. On
May the 4th, Star Wars Day of this year, we are going to get Star Wars Visions Volume 2.
Woohoo!
We all, I think, across the whole Baraxium crew really loved Visions Volume 1. And for me, and I think for you too, like we didn't know all that much about anime. Still don't. It
Yeah.
was sort of a really cool introduction to all the different types of animation that you may encounter in storytelling within the anime space. And what Visions Volume 2 is doing is giving other creators, other artists around the world an opportunity to also tell Star Wars stories. And I've got the list of countries here. You ready?
Go for it.
Because it's not just going to be Japan. We're going to
Yep.
go all over the world.
Okay.
So one, I'll mention, yes, Japan is back in it. So there's going to be a segment, episode, or something that is done by a Japanese studio. But we're also going to go to Spain, Ireland, the United Kingdom, South Korea, India, France, South Africa, Chile, and Detroit.
Detroit?
That's going to be.
I didn't know this news. I'm so glad that I didn't ahead of time. Because then
I
I could
made
have
up.
like an actual reaction to one of them.
I made up one of those. You have to guess which one.
Oh, don't say Detroit.
I made up Detroit. I'm sorry.
Dang it. You're just cruel. You
I made
knew
up
I
Detroit.
would love that one. I was like, okay, this is cool. This is cool. What? It also just does. Okay. You really got me good there because
Sorry.
anime would never come out of Detroit.
You never know. I mean, Detroit's making cool stuff these days. They make cool watches, bicycles, whatever.
That's true. I love their watches.
Yeah.
China is the best.
Very cool.
Anyway, that was cruel, but the rest of that was pretty awesome. France,
Sorry.
that's kind of neat.
France is cool. India is cool. Would love to see what type of Star Wars stories South Korea, Chile come up with.
Yeah.
And I wonder if Chile got in there because our dear hero Pedro Pascal is Chilean by birth.
I actually didn't know that.
Yeah, Chilean by birth. Moved to the States when I think he was in middle school-ish and grew up in Texas and California, but Chilean by birth.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I mean, my first question with that is, does that mean, remember how, last year all of it was done in Japanese?
Yeah.
Right. And so like people were watching it in Japanese just so they can get that feel of what, of how it is originally delivered instead of like
that's actually how I watched it the first time around. And I wouldn't normally do that, but I was like, just give it to me how they made it. Like, I just want to experience it that way.
So does that mean the French was going to be in French and the Spain is going to be in Spanish?
Yeah.
You follow what I'm saying?
I follow what you're saying. I'm not going to be able to follow what they're saying, if you know what I mean. But
I could do the French one.
You could do the French one. And I think they're probably going to do their native language.
Love it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm here for it.
And I think it's going to be the same thing again, where it's stories that are not necessarily connected in any way, meaning like they're going to give these studios a ton of creative freedom just to kind of flex and tell the story that they want to tell. Super cool.
Yeah. Love it. Here for it. Can't wait. We will have an episode about that. It'll be fun to discuss and just revisit the other ones too, because like we tend to do before the next thing comes out is revisit the ones that came before it and get caught back up, just have it fresh in our minds going in. So we will definitely do that here in a few months when that comes out. Right on the heels of Mandalorian season 3, which will be nice too.
Yes, sir.
A few other small pieces of news that are out there. You mentioned John Williams turned ripe age of 91, very 91 young still.
On the 8th of February, and he recently spoke to a journalist and said he feels like he's got 10 more years of writing music in him. So God bless him. Hope he's well.
Awesome. That's exciting. There's also some news on Jedi Survivor, right?
Jedi Survivor, the video game, which I think is a PS5 exclusive that a lot of people are excited about, has two bits of news. One, it's been delayed to April 28th. And we should never get worried about a game that is delayed because it means that they're just getting it right. And we should give them the time to do that. And they released 9 minutes of gameplay. So if you want to immerse yourself in what Jedi Survivor might be like and what the gameplay is actually going to feel like, then you should be able to find that on the YouTubes.
I need to get a PlayStation 5 first, I think.
I'll get one in like 3 or 4 years when my PS4 finally dies.
Which is sad because
That's
I don't.
okay, and then you'll get a huge backlog of games that's brand new to you.
That's true. If I go back to them, which I would for something like this.
For something like this, yeah.
But yeah. Um, and then the last piece of news that I have, at least, or do you have any more before I get to
I
Bad Batch?
I have one other one, which
Yeah, yeah.
is Star Wars Young Jedi Adventures, and a lot of people on Twitter are freaking out about how cute it is and stuff. And this is a very young, maybe the youngest kind of targeted demographic Star Wars show that they've ever put out. It's in partnership between Lucasfilm and Disney Junior, which I think is for like the 5 and under crowd. So like
Yeah.
very shrimpy little dweebs. And
What have you been around a child? I'm just kidding.
no.
I love that. I'm gonna call my 3-year-old a shrimpy little dweeb tomorrow.
Yeah, it's a
That's gonna
term
be
of
his nickname.
endearment.
I love it.
It looks cute, but it might not be something I'm necessarily watching because it's, again, for the little shrimpy dweebuses.
Oh, is that the plural of it?
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, that'll be. I don't know. Maybe I'll check that out with my kids. Like you said, if it's for them, I watch stuff with them all the time. Bluey, gosh, have you seen Bluey?
I've heard a lot about Bluey.
We just made Bluey Play-Doh today.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, we've got a lot of Bluey in the house. Anyway,
No
yeah.
connection to Arrested Development, or it's
No,
not that guy in a kid's show.
no, no, it is not. It is not. The already casted Thrawn guy.
Dude, I love that.
That was
I
a
love
great
that.
meme when he said that to me. I was like, oh yeah, they have already cast Thrawn. He was in Arrested Development. Perfect.
People arguing it should be
Tobias.
Benedict Cumberbatch or whoever else, and it's like, no, they got it right years ago.
He's right there, guys. Tobias. He looks great in the blue paint. And are you blue? Only in color, Michael. Sorry, had to throw that one out there. No,
I love it.
Let's wrap up
Yeah.
the news and just talk real quick about the Bad Batch because I forgot to last time, so I'm going to chat about it now.
We're here now.
Usually we would just have 2 episodes, but we got 3 this time, which was great. So we got Tribe, the Clone Conspiracy, and Truth and Consequences. And I mean, there was a really good episode earlier in the season, so the Solitary Clone that everybody just tripped over and loved, and that I agree, like that was probably one of my favorites of the season. Then Tribe came out, and spoilers, by the way, like we're just covering a little bit of tidbits here and there of it, but there will be spoilers, so move along to a future timestamp if you don't want to hear spoilers. But in Tribe we get a little Wookiee Jedi that was introduced in the Clone Wars named Gunji returns.
Aww.
And it ends up being just this, we return to Kashyyyk and everything. It just ended up being one of my favorite because you just mixed all of that nostalgia in with a really good story and showed, again, we'll talk about it in a second, another survivor of Order 66 and how they're managing in this galaxy right now. So that one ended up being really good. And you're like, okay, can they top that? And they did. The next 2 were just phenomenal. They came out as a pair, the Clone Conspiracy and Truth and Consequences. And everyone was kind of waiting like to see what would happen to Rampart and stuff. I just knew he had it coming. I was a little bit surprised that we saw his come a little bit earlier than anticipated in the middle of the season. So it was the return of Darth Sidious too. So we got Palpatine for a bit at the end and watched him, be just as conniving and
Pal Friend Patine.
Yeah. He looked like he was being friendly to the entire galaxy when really he was stabbing him in the back and Rampart at the same time. So man, it ended up just being some great stuff. And we got to see a bit more of like, how are the clones managing after, after Order 66, after the fall of the, of what's the place that we saw at the end of season 1, Camino and all the I forget this, Topeka City. Oh man,
is that what it is on Camino? The city?
It's something like that. Yeah. Well, anyway, sorry, I'm forgetting it, nerds.
You're thinking about Kansas, I think.
I know I am, but it's something like that with a T. So anyway, but like where they've gone since this, this episode, and so it's that episode where we saw Camino fall. It's just really cool. It just explores a lot of those areas where Filoni just loves to go. Just little threads that are hanging. He's like, you know what? I'm gonna pull at this one and see what kind of story I can make out of it. So I'm loving this. Um, anyway, I'm ranting on and on about Bad Batch.
Nothing
It's
wrong.
just been really good. If you've
Cool.
been watching out there, let us know what you think. I'm really enjoying it, so hopefully you are too.
Just another one of like and it's like an embarrassment of riches. Like we're just spoiled with all these different shows and shows yet to come, and it's all quality stuff. So
Yeah.
I'm glad for everybody who is enjoying it, but I think it's time for us to transition to our main segment of the show.
Yes, it is.
And that one is called More to the Story.
Dun dun dun. Oh wait. Yeah. I should do something. Dun dun dun. There we go.
That whole thing was good. And again, tonight we're talking about Order 66, not just because it's our 66th episode, but because it's a critical moment in Star Wars. And you were telling me you think it's the
All right.
most critical moment in all of Star Wars. And
Hear me out.
You pick when you want to get on that. You want to get on the soapbox now.
Oh yeah. I'm
Okay.
getting on it now. So hear me out now.
Uh-huh.
There are a lot of really big critical moments that happen in Star Wars, right? Like the Death Star blowing up was probably the one that everyone thinks of first. In fact, the entire timeline that Lucasfilm gives us is based around the event of the Death Star blowing up. Part of that is because it was the first movie. I get that. But I would argue out of all of the events of everything that we've received in Star Wars, Order 66 is the most pivotal. It is every bit of the story that comes before it and after it hinges on that moment. Why? First of all, think of how many times that it's been replayed in Star Wars. It's been in, I wrote the list down because I was like,
you did.
I was just thinking about every place that we saw it. We first see it in episode 3. That's where we're introduced to it. Bad Batch revisits it in the very first episode.
It starts with that.
It starts on that note, and it shows the vantage point of Caleb Doom and Depa Billaba. Clone Wars then goes into it, and we see what happens from the vantage point of Ahsoka. Mandalorian season 2, showing what happened to Grogu during that time. Obi-Wan, the series that just came out last year, right? It started on that moment again, just like Bad Batch did. And even Rebels goes into it a little bit and gives us the flashback and at least the recording, as far as I remember, of Obi-Wan's speech to the remaining Jedi out there. It's probably the most revisited.
And the trailer for Mandalorian season 3 seems to, will confirm, have more footage of it.
That's right.
We're coming back to it yet again from some angle that perhaps we haven't seen before.
But think about it too. So even with how many times it's been revisited, that is the point at which the Republic becomes the Empire. So that is one big thing that came out of it. And because of that, the galaxy is forever reshaped.
Yeah.
Like you can never look back at it and say that it's the same after that again. That's when, the oppression started, really.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not trying to downplay Alderaan destroying, which was huge, and the Death Star being destroyed, which is also huge. But those were pivotal they were pivotal moments in a war. But this was really a pivotal moment in just the way the galaxy was going to be run.
Yeah, it's like a tipping of the balance moment in a bad direction. And you're right. It's funny that everything on the timeline is BBY, and
right.
In so many ways, everything in the Star Wars galaxy is before and after Order 66.
Yeah.
So I have a hard time disagreeing with the idea that this is one of the most pivotal moments, but maybe we can go back to the timeline leading up to that pivotal moment. Because I found when I first saw the prequels, I had a tricky time following some of this stuff. And over the years, it's kind of been pieced together. Like when I first saw the prequels, I remember being in the theater and being like, "Who's Sifo Dyas?"
Oh, sure.
What's that about?
Yeah.
So maybe we can start with him a little bit. So he is a Jedi. He's part of the Jedi Council at a certain point in his Jedi career.
Mm-hmm.
And then things go in a different direction.
Mm-hmm.
And he's kicked off the Jedi Council. And he goes and he finds the Kaminoans, I don't know how, and strikes a deal with them to build this clone army to defend the Republic, presumably. At some point, the Sith start using him. Based on my research, and I don't know where this happens. You tell me if you're aware. Master Sifo Dyas is killed by some part of the Pike Syndicate, and a decade goes by, and then Obi-Wan goes and finds the clones and the Kaminoans and starts to put together the pieces of what's been going on.
Also in there, we learned Dooku had deleted Camino from the archives of the Jedi, so
Yeah.
that it couldn't be found.
Right.
No one could accidentally stumble upon it and stumble upon what they're doing there and what they're
Yeah.
building. And imagine the Kaminoans at that point. Like, an order is placed, and the people that placed it 10 years ago aren't even around anymore to,
Yeah.
you know. But apparently someone's got to be paying the bill,
So,
and that would be, Sidious.
Right. And so that
presumably.
was a big question of mine when I was kind of reflecting on, like, where do we start this episode?
Yeah.
And we had an episode not long ago about The Last Jedi because it was the 5-year anniversary. And I think something that I really warmed up to in The Last Jedi is the Canto Bite scene or scenes,
Mm-hmm.
and how there's all these war profiteers there.
Yeah.
And I was like, are the Kaminoans war profiteers? Are they acting unethically? Because it seems like there's some stuff where they might not be exactly aware of, or the cover story for, like, the inhibitor chip in Order 66 might make sense. If
Yeah.
it's to prevent a rogue Jedi from harming other people, or rogue Jedi plural from harming other people, like, okay, maybe it makes sense to
You mean a
kind of
rogue
build it.
clone?
No, a rogue Jedi. Because the explanation that I read was the inhibitor chips that they had put in and were pre-programmed for Order 66. It was only supposed to happen under extreme circumstances where maybe a Jedi has gone rogue and has started harming people.
Oh, okay. I follow. Okay.
But the Sith were playing the long game.
I think that was, like, the lie that might have been told to them,
Yeah.
of, like, that's why we need to have this, and that's why we need this order. It's like it was just to protect in the event that, like, the Jedi become the enemies and we need to go after them instead.
Yeah.
But in reality, it was, Sidious working behind the scenes to say, like, no, I want a way to take them over. Basically, I want the Republic to build an army for it, and then I'm going to take it over with that army.
Yeah.
Is what he's doing here.
Yeah. It's that's him. That's what he
Mhm.
does.
Yeah.
But what do you think about the Kaminoans? Do you think that they are ethical? Do you think that they are war profiteers? Do you think
Well,
that they're sort of in some gray space?
no, look, I think they're just, I don't think they're war profiteers. I think they're just I think there's, first of all, well, depending on what you think is ethical of cloning to begin with.
Hey, that's a fair point.
Like, that's its own different line, right? But, like, let's just assume for a second that we have breached the path, or breached the topic of clones as an ethical one. Okay, now we're creating clones to create an army. Well, to them, then they're just seeing themselves as a member of the Republic who is caught up in this thing with the separatists for nearly a decade, where they basically just think that they're doing right by creating this army for them.
Mhm.
Like, and in their mind, it's better to create the army out of clones than it is to just get a bunch of conscripts, which is, by the way, what we just got out of the Bad Batch episode, right? Is they approved the Stormtrooper initiative to get conscripts instead of using clones anymore. So I mean, they must have thought what they were doing was ethical. I think then there were a few on the inside And I think we see some of this in the Clone Wars when we get the episodes on the inhibitor chips. Like, oh no, we like, one of the inhibitor chips malfunctioned, and I forgot the name. Tips, I think, is his name. The clone trooper, um, and he risks exposing what is embedded in all the clones around the galaxy. So like, you see a little bit of like that, like inside job to cover up what's really happening here. It was the first, like, I think, hint that we got around the inhibitor chips essentially existing. So I wouldn't, to answer your question, I wouldn't call them war profiteers. I would kind of think of them as like how we have in the US a bunch of contractors, like what's that big company like the US contracts with? I think one that's in our area here up in like King of Prussia.
Like Lockheed Martin.
Lockheed Martin, yeah. Like it's like a Lockheed Martin.
Okay.
Is how I think of them. Would you say Lockheed Martin is war profiteering? No.
I don't think that would be fair to say. Yeah.
Right. So disagree with me if you think of it from another way, but that's how I'm landing.
Yeah, no, I don't know. It was just a question that was kind of bouncing around in my mind this morning, especially when I was thinking about recording tonight. And I was like, man, these guys, like, what do they know? And what are they comfortable with? And how have they been lied to or tricked or duped or whatever? And in what ways are they kind of complicit? And it's never super clear.
I think, but the idea of war profiteering is that you have to basically benefit from both sides. You're like selling to the good guys and the bad guys, right? You're selling to your enemies just as much as you're selling to your you don't care who wins just as long as you profit from it.
Yeah. Well, in this
that's
case,
not what they're doing.
In this case, they made good guys who turned into bad guys. And
yeah.
So they sort of played both sides that way, but unintentionally.
Exactly.
They set out to do that. But hey, I wanted to share a couple things about Order 66, if I may, based on my research. And I don't know where this comes from. It doesn't come from the films. It's sort of backstory stuff. So I don't know if it comes up in a comic book or maybe it's talked about in a little bit of detail in one of the shows or expanded universe novels or something. But so Order 66, also known as Clone Protocol 66.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how many contingency orders of the Grand Army of the Republic there are? That's the full name.
I always assumed that there were 99. I don't know why.
There's 150.
Okay.
So 66 is kind of buried deep in there. It's not the first one, it's not the last one.
Yeah.
So a couple of things that are interesting about Order 66. A lot of the orders actually have contingencies in them. There are chain of command considerations. So it's like, you can do this if these folks sign off, and to undo it, those Order 66 doesn't have that.
As long as Sidious sends it.
As long as the Chancellor sends it, then you're good to go.
Okay, we'll revisit that in a second. Actually, should I just visit it now?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, so there is a great comic series that I just read last year. It's one by Soul. It's the Darth Vader series. It's called The Burning Seas. Got it right here. And
Charles Soule's the man.
He is seriously the man. Like, he's
the man.
Does some great stuff with it. But there is a Jedi Padawan named Farron Barr who is in it. He is on Mon Cala, and basically he's a fallen Padawan, we'll say. He's not doing a lot of good things anymore, but like, his motive is still really good. He wants to face Vader. He wants to take down the Empire and everything that Palpatine stands for, but his methods are very wrong. He's basically turning the Empire against Mon Cala so that he can get them to come and try to kill Vader. And they end up destroying Mon Cala, right? So he's sacrificing the city for what he wants and what he wants to gain.
Dude, Charles Soule's the man.
He really is. And
Such
by
a
the
good
way,
storyteller.
The reason why he's there is because he has a vision, and he doesn't really understand it, but his vision is that the Mon Calamari will serve a major purpose in the in the rebellion,
Okay.
which they eventually do,
Which they do.
obviously. But that's what's driven him there. Anyway,
Cool.
long-winded way. He gets to a moment though where all of these troopers and I think they're purge troopers. We were talking about them last episode, right?
Yeah, go visit our last episode to hear all about them. And when I
Shameless
say
plug. Hashtag.
when I say all about them, I mean a little bit about them.
Exactly. But he's there with the purge troopers have backed him into a corner with the inquisitors, and he pulls off Farenbar pulls off their helmets and reveals that they are the last batch of clones that came from Camino, which means that they
Wow.
weren't there during Order 66. And so in that moment, he explains, I learned how Palpatine turned the whole entire army the against the Jedi, and it was through a few simple words: execute Order 66. He says the words, and then the clone troopers turn on the Inquisitors.
Oh my
So
gosh.
it's a Soul is amazing, right?
Yeah.
um, it's so good. But to go back to your point, how did he get to execute that order? He's not Palpatine. So there might be a little bit of like course correcting on that one,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
I don't know. I think there's still some truth to it.
Yeah, totally. Oh my gosh, I was getting into that story. I got to pick that up.
Go pick it up. You can borrow from me if you want.
I would love to. Thank you. Here's something else. So not only do you not need to consider the chain of command to execute Order 66, there is no way to rescind it. So a lot of these
Right.
contingency orders of the Grand Army of the Republic, they have something that you go through, some process where you can stop in its tracks whatever it is you're doing. You can't with this. You can't, as I said to you recently, you can't put the sneeze back in. It's out there in the world.
Yes.
And
That's a
and
very good line.
here's something else that I loved. Order 65. Do you know what Order 65 is?
Oh, I feel like I know it. Is it the other one? Is it like the Chancellor has committed treason?
It is. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
Order
I
65
knew this one. Yay.
outlines the detention and potentially the execution of the chancellor, I think, in cases of high treason, etc.
Okay.
And something I read said that Palpatine put that right there to take the edge off of the fact that Order 66 had no chain of command considerations and could not be rescinded.
Okay. Interesting.
So who knows? But yeah, this is stuff that gets put together years after the fact. But I think it's just another way where it's like Palpatine was playing 3D chess while everybody else was playing 2D checkers.
Yes, it's true. And it's one thing that makes, I mean, it's one thing too to like see that. It's another thing, by the way, to write all that. To
Yeah,
write the character of Palpatine has probably had to have been one of the hardest things. That's why, like, every single time you see him do that, you know, ooh, we didn't see it coming. He's tricked us.
yeah.
Man, like, that's just plain good writing to get to
Oh
that
yeah, yeah,
point.
yeah, yeah,
And I felt that again when I was watching the Truth or Consequences episode. The Bad Batch, the last one that came
yeah,
out. You just saw him, you know, snap his fingers and he's got everyone wrapped around his thumb again, going the direction
yeah.
he wants them to go. And you're sitting here going, all right, how did he pull the wool over our eyes again? We were fighting against him. Everyone was against this thing until he steps in and shows us that like apparently we need an emperor, and now we all voted for one.
Yes.
It's really weird.
But dude, talk to me. Let's go back in time a little bit. Talk to me about maybe when you first saw Order 66 happening up on the big screen, or what kind of like emotion does it bring up for you now when you think about it? Because I get that it's a critical plot point, but I have all these different complicated reactions to it too. But we'll save those for when I'm in therapy on Tuesday.
I do want to know what those are, though. This might be the session to bring them out.
Okay.
No, I can't remember how old I was. I was in my late teens, watching it, and I was just in awe. I loved it. Episode 3 is I've got a poster of it in the basement. You
You
know,
do, yeah, a
it's an
cool
authentic
poster.
one. I love that episode because of how dark it is. And Order 66 is the darkest moment. So I remember watching it and feeling the gut wrench of it, and feeling, when Plo Koon dies, when
Mm,
uh oh gosh, I can see the one with the tall head. Dang it.
yeah, a key
Yeah. Yep.
Addy Mundi.
Yeah, it's Addy Mundi. Yeah. I had it like I've said it a couple times a day, and then of course when I
In
need
what
to say it
context?
in preparing for the episode,
Oh, okay.
I was
I
just
don't know
like,
if
I gotta remember that one.
I don't know if you give that name when you're like making a restaurant reservation or something.
No, it's usually when I'm trying not to swear in front of my kids. I just say that.
You just say Star Wars names?
I just say that name, just that one. um,
Dude, you have to diversify your portfolio. You got to pull some other ones in there.
I usually throw French ones in there sometimes.
I mean,
Nobody knows what I'm saying.
Plo's a good one to throw in. That sounds
Yeah, just
almost like a.
Plo Koon. Yeah. No, but just I felt every death. I felt it the way Yoda did, and how just how terrible what that was. So I don't know. I know some people though had a reaction to it of, well, wait, how did the clone troopers just on a dime go, they're enemies and let's go ahead and shoot them? And that's made way for Filoni to come in and create the whole concept of the inhibitor chip, which some people
Yeah,
say is a retcon. I mean, call it what you will. It works.
it
It makes
works.
sense. I mean,
No, I don't think in the Star Wars galaxy, um, things are always branching out and things are always evolving and growing, and there's so much precedent for the story not being fixed and stuck and static. And there are gonna be other Filonis that come by in the future and that fill in other details that seemed minor and all of a sudden become major plot points and stuff. And my only advice is you got to deal with it. It's okay.
yeah. Yeah.
The Star Wars story is going to keep growing and evolving. But okay, so that's interesting. So
What
I
about you? What was your reaction the first time you saw it?
um it was just it was really unnerving. But I'm with you. Like it made sense in the context of the darkest chapter of that part of the story to have a moment that took you to a place that's that dark. But something that's always kind of like stuck with me is like it's kind of brutal. It's like it's really rough, and
Hmm.
it's cool. It's cool, watching you raise your kids. And I remember talking to um, Kerwin and Keith on Father and Son Galaxy about this too. About like not yet. I
Yeah.
can't. I
Yeah.
can't show them this one yet. And it'll
not
be a
not
cool.
for my kids yet.
Yeah, and it'll be a cool day when, like, they get to see that part of the story, but,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like it's so these are all kids' movies, right? But this is the only one where everybody's kinda like, "I'm gonna wait."
Well, keep in
Ah,
mind, like this was the first PG-13.
yeah,
All of them are PG up
yeah.
until then, and then this one was PG-13. They've all been PG-13 ever since.
Oh,
And
really? I
mhm,
didn't notice that, huh.
yeah, they all. I mean, because PG-13 sells a little bit different. It's a business decision mostly.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, I told you about how I showed my kids the Force. I was watching the Force Awakens a couple of weekends ago, and uh, and at the part at the end where Han Solo dies, I was
Mm.
preparing my daughter who's in there. Is like she's very sensitive. I'm like, and she's only 8. I'm like, I don't really want her to see this, but I'm gonna try to see what.
She's a good soul.
Yeah, and like it's not gory. It's not done in a really bad way, right? So I'm
No,
like,
it's just sad.
it's just very, very heart wrenching. And so I explained to her, this is coming. Do you want to sit around and see this? This could be hard.
What did you say exactly? What did you say is coming? Han Solo is about to die?
Basically, I
Are you
was
good
just
with
like,
this?
I was like, not are you good with this, but I was like, you have the choice to sit here and watch it and feel what it feels like. Oh, she did not take it well. But that she
No?
also doesn't take it well when like Toothless from How to Train Your Dragon. Anyway, let's not even.
I was on a group text with you, where, yeah, I hope you don't mind me sharing this, but your wife shared that your daughter didn't want to get rid of her old Animal Crossing town
Yes,
because
yeah,
she was
exactly.
she she just felt an attachment to it,
Yeah,
and she's just such a good soul, and got such a big heart that
she does.
I
That's
think
right.
she really feels this stuff. So yeah, you can show her like episode 3 for
No,
probably not until she's done college or something.
not even my son would I show that to right now, and he can handle things a little bit much better. I just don't think he's ready for it either. So it
Your
is
son
dark.
DJ Tornado.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Oh man. Um. Yeah. You distracted my line of thinking, but
That's what I do.
that's what you do. That's
By the way,
really all I have to say on it.
that's a quick reference to the fact that your son loves weather
Yes, he does.
and all types of stuff about weather. And you went to was it Star Wars night at the Red Wings?
No, it wasn't Star Wars
Star
night.
Wars
No.
night at the Red Wings was like this week or something. But
Yeah, yeah, it was.
you took your son, your 8-year-old son, is he 8?
Yep. Yep.
Your 8-year-old son to a Red Wings game, and you posted a picture of him. I guess there was a DJ,
Yes.
and Jack had his hands like up on the records like he was DJing. And
Oh,
asked,
and he was like starting to play with other stuff, and the guy comes in. He's like, no, not those buttons.
Right. I'm not surprised because all these shiny blinky buttons look really attractive to
Yeah.
adults. So I'm sure to kids they're just like, oh my gosh.
It's candy.
But I asked you what his DJ name was, and you said DJ Tornado, and that stuck in my mind. That's such an awesome DJ name.
It is. He
and
could be that.
really suits him. But no, I going back to the fact that this is a Star Wars podcast. Dude, it messed me up. I was just like, oh my gosh, like this is like really brutal, like really,
Yeah.
really brutal. And I think the part that always kind of got me the most was when Anakin goes and the younglings. Yeah.
Yes.
And I think I'm not alone there, but
No,
that's one of the things that makes me think sometimes too of like, how was he redeemable? How was he
Oh.
redeemable after that?
Most people said that, right?
Yeah.
And I think they have very good reason to say that. And a lot of people don't believe that he is redeemable because of that.
Yeah.
I probably consider myself one of those people, but I guess the difference for me is just, I mean, if you want to believe that everybody can be redeemed, you gotta apply it in all contexts and really test that theory. And so
that's the
if you're
thing.
holding on to that theory, you gotta accept that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. It's not just, the people in the world who are crooks. It's the people who do really bad stuff. Otherwise it's not everybody can be redeemed.
Right.
So so maybe that's the question I'm struggling with rather than can Anakin be redeemed? It's like is there stuff that you can do that is redeemable in the Star Wars galaxy when, in my head I'm just like, oh my gosh, it's hard to get past. But I think that there are a lot of really cool moments when you read into how they made the movie. And that's one of my favorite, I think kind of like behind the scenes stories is when Hayden Christensen walked in that room. First off, I think they got a kid what's the kid's line? Master
Skywalker, there's too many of them. What are we going to do?
It's so good. It's so good. That kid, they got a kid who looked like little Anakin, looked like
yeah, he does.
What Jake Lloyd,
yeah,
like a little version of Jake Lloyd, and so there's some symbolism there of Anakin is killing the potential for goodness, the little version of him that was going to grow up, the innocent one. But apparently also when Hayden Christensen walked into the room, that little actor, what was his name? Do you know?
I don't.
I've got it written down here.
It's like you're testing me then.
That little kid's name was he had a nickname too. His name was Barney Pretzelhead Jones.
You're making this up.
That's what it's in my notes.
You said Detroit earlier, and that was probably in your notes too.
You don't think that kid's name was Barney Pretzelhead Jones?
I could believe Barney Jones.
You know what Jude Law's real name is?
Oh gosh, what?
David
Law?
Which I thought was funny because
I just named one of my kids after him.
Oh, you did?
No, not really.
It's not,
but his name is Jude.
It's not short for Judith, which some people think.
Yeah.
But Taika Waititi's real name is Taika David Cohen.
I think I knew that.
But anyway, you're getting me off track.
I'm not doing anything here. I'm just listening.
So, young actor Barney Pretzelhead Jones.
Now I know it's not true.
I don't know why his parents named him that. But
You're just
Uh,
trying to keep something really dark light. I know you
I
are.
know, I know. I'm trying to take the edge off here. But okay, so Hayden Christensen walks in the room and screamed boo at him. Have you heard this before?
No.
And that's why, like, if you look at the kid actor, like, he flinches when Hayden Christensen hits his lightsaber, and that's because Hayden Christensen, the actor, decided to scare him, and so he yells boo, and Barney has this little reaction, and there's like little moments like that are built in there, and like, and that kid genuinely looks a little bit frightened.
Oh yeah,
It
yeah.
looks real, and
So
that's
it's
why
not
it's
just
because
acting. He's just yeah, having a hard
he's
time here.
reacting to Hayden Christensen. You know what Hayden's real name is?
What?
Magnus.
You stop it.
Magnus David Taika
Just
Christensen.
stop. Just stop. Can we? I don't know what to take seriously. None of our listeners are gonna know what's true and what's not anymore.
You're right. We're gonna get flagged for misinformation. So here's the
Uh,
one thing that I said two things that are true. Hayden
that's
Christensen
it.
did yes. Hayden Christensen did yell boo at
I
that
believe
kid.
that.
I don't know what that kid's name is. And Jude Law's real first name is David. That's real.
Okay, I'll believe you on that. He's making Skeleton Crew. Maybe he'll put David Law in there instead.
What do you think that's about?
I have no idea. I don't even know what to speculate on because we don't have very many details on it. But let's
Okay.
stay on point. Let's
Well,
stay on topic. Stop.
I have a stop. I have a theory about Skeleton Crew, but
Stop.
I can tweet it or something. Do
Yeah.
you want to hear like the 5-second version?
Sure.
It's it's a show about X-ray techs in the Star Wars universe.
All right. I want to get on to something else. I'm gonna
Okay.
try to rope us back in. You're hilarious, man. I can't do this.
Barney Pretzelhead Jones.
You're just trying to come up with our next what's his name? Dang it. Randy.
Randy? Yeah,
Pretzelhead.
he's been in
Randy and
hibernation
Pretzelhead.
he's been but
Okay.
so what do you want to talk about? You want to talk about Order 66? That's what the people are here for.
I wanted to talk about a couple of things. One, something that kind of stood out to me a little bit differently this time, and I want to get your reaction to this line of thought. So there's a moment where they're about to go over, well, right before they go over to arrest Palpatine for treason or for whatever crime that they're coming up with, right? There's this huddle between a few minds, right? Mace Windu and Yoda's there, and Gyati Mundi, I think is how you say it. They're all there, and they're talking about if he doesn't give up power, then he should be removed from office, and all this. And Yoda says a line, and I wrote it down: "To a dark place, this line of thought will carry us. Grave care we must take." And I paused on that, and I thought, I'm like, is this the moment where Yoda's looking and saying, we are in the middle of a trap that has been set for us for years, and we didn't see it coming. Now we're in it, and we are talking about going. Jedi, the keepers of the peace, are going to arrest the head of the Republic that we have sworn to defend. And we have gone so far away from our values as Jedi. We are not keepers of the peace anymore. We're soldiers. We're generals in an army.
Inserting yourself into politics.
Exactly. Inserting themselves into politics, and taking political sides. And now we're taking it against the Chancellor, who has amassed so much power that he poses a true threat, not just to the Jedi, but the Republic. And they've realized, I think Yoda's realizing in this moment, they're trapped. And they've got to go down this path. But he sees the peril that lies ahead, that if one false move and they're done.
Yeah. And that's a really good point about the power and recognition of power and them inserting themselves into politics. Like that's not necessarily a mismatch. Like the entire Jedi Order and like the institution of the Jedi going up against the Chancellor, like that's a conflict for the ages. That
Yeah.
is something where I feel like one of the things that the Jedi, as we go into the High Republic, things like that, one of the things that Jedi are known for is they're kind of like complementary to the conflict. There's an issue, they swoop in, they become part of the story insofar as they're rescuers, they're protectors of the innocent, and so on. Um, but here they are at a point where they're actually thinking about like basically taking over the government
Yeah.
and installing themselves as like the temporary, um, I guess the temporary leaders of the Galactic Republic, and it's like it's just like how did we ever get here?
Yeah. Yeah. And we got here drip by drip from, Palpatine here. It was the whole idea of like the frog, like turning up the if you put a frog in a pot of
Just
cold
boiling it
water
slowly.
and you
Yeah,
just boil it slowly, like that's exactly what's happened here.
yeah. And
And
and and again, you think about like how did Palpatine put these chess pieces in place to a point where it's like that's a conflict that is hard for them to avoid at this point.
yeah,
Like it's really putting them in a position where they don't have a whole lot of moves left,
right.
and unfortunately, like they have to go head to head with him.
Yeah. Unfortunately, they do. But I also think you got to wonder if they played it a little bit differently, would it have panned out? Like, because here's the thing: in order for Sidious to be able to call the Order 66, there has to have been a real, legitimate threat that posed itself from the Jedi against the Republic that he could pin it on. And that event is Mace Windu coming to arrest the Chancellor and then, twisting everything that happened in that moment, getting making himself get electrocuted and
Yep.
scarred so that he could prove, like, look at the attempt on my life
Yeah.
from the Jedi. If it weren't for that, would Sidious have anything to execute the Order 66 off of?
No, that's a good point.
No.
That's a good point.
So if you think about it, I wrote it down. Like, if it weren't for Mace Windu's hasty push to destroy Palpatine, Order 66 never could have happened, at least in that moment.
Yeah.
Um, and so, like, if you listen to Yoda's line of thought, it was like, um, we need to be really careful here. I don't think Mace Windu was, because that conversation happened before he knew that he was a Sith Lord. As soon as he found out he was a Sith Lord, all Mace Windu did was got every Jedi he could around him, except for Anakin, the most powerful one, to go and help him. And they weren't any match for him, as we saw, right?
Yeah. 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 And so you told me which episode did you tell me to watch today of the Clone Wars?
Yes, let's talk
Shattered.
about that. Shattered.
Told me to watch Shattered, which is from season 7 of the Clone Wars, later on in the season, and it's the Ahsoka perspective on Order 66. And one of the things that struck me there is when they first start talking about their concerns with the Chancellor, it is Mace Windu in the episode who speaks up and says, that I can feel some darkness around the Chancellor, and I think that there is a plot against the Jedi. And I give him a lot of credit in the film for being that guy who says the tough thing out loud.
Mhm.
I almost wish he would have been even more hasty and would have. And this is sort of a gray area thing of like, gosh, maybe if there was some way where he could have just thrown Sidious out the window, then potentially we could have avoided a lot of heartache. We would have lost a few movies and a lot of storyline, but it's almost like if you're going to be hasty, go all the way and just,
Well,
eliminate the threat.
honestly, too, if you would have just trusted Anakin, I don't know if any of this would have happened.
Mm,
Because Anakin, he's conflicted partly because he's not getting any semblance of, like, um of acknowledgement from the Jedi Council, of accolade.
yeah.
Like, they just keep shoving him to the side, shoveling him under the rug, like, telling him to stay out of it. He's conflicted, and they don't wanna get him involved and stuff.
Why?
If
Why
they
do you
would've
think that
just
was? Do you think it was because they were just too self-involved? Of like,
maybe, but I think they also thought he was too self-involved, and so it was just this they just never saw eye to eye, you know?
yeah.
I don't know if Mace Windu fully, he just never fully trusted him. He even says, like, "If what you say is true, then you will have gained my trust." He doesn't have it yet.
Mm,
I wonder if he would have just
Mm,
treated Anakin a little bit different, if he would have been like, "No, I'm on this guy's side." But because
yeah,
Mace was never good to him, and here Palpatine's like actually has something of value to him, he can help save Padme's life. He sides with him instead.
yeah, yeah.
So
That's a good point.
yeah, I do. I'm not blaming him at all, like, and saying like it's all his fault. I'm just saying
No, no.
if you would have like paused for a second and be like, okay, strategy time. Let me call Yoda and see what he thinks we should do. Maybe something would have happened. Maybe it would have unfolded differently.
Yeah.
But no, I did tell you to watch Shattered. What did you think of it?
I thought it was great. So if you've listened to the podcast before, you may be aware that I've never seen all of the Clone Wars episodes. I've seen a bunch of them, but um, by no means am I an expert on it. But love a lot of the characters, and it was cool seeing from a different angle, kind of like a remote angle, execute Order 66 being executed and what that looked like, and what for Rex the conflict looked like internally for him,
Yeah,
um, and just kind of the shock of what is happening, how do we get here, and all that stuff. Somewhere on a spaceship far away. Um,
yeah,
I think between that, I think the first episode of the Bad Batch, plus some of the stuff in the movie, you see how just like immediate a coordinated effort it was. It's like a switch flips, and all
hmm
of a sudden
yeah,
everybody is reacting to it. Um, and it was kind of cool seeing how far and wide that switch flipping was impacting people. So I thought it was really cool. Thanks for pointing that out.
no, yeah. I wanted you to watch it for a few reasons. One because yeah, I think, like I mentioned, there's probably six different places in all of Star Wars where we watch Order 66 unfold from a different vantage point. We got to get
Yeah,
into Obi-Wan, and every single time it happens, it hurts a little more.
yeah,
Like the Obi-Wan time this time was hurt a lot, especially when you saw from like how it impacted Riva.
a vulnerable youngling. Yeah,
Yes, exactly. And here watching Anakin kill more younglings, right?
yep.
Like
Who
that's
who was
painful.
potentially friend Riva was potentially friends with that kid who got killed.
Yeah, exactly. She said it. Like I laid with them and felt them go cold. Like it was not a pleasant experience.
Wait,
For her to go through that.
wait, wait.
What?
Can I fill you in on something real quick?
I'm nervous for what I just said and what it links up to. So yeah, sure.
Okay. The thank you. I appreciate you. Let me do that. Um so that kid's name was not Barney Jones, it was Ross Speedman.
Oh,
And
that's it. That is his real name.
Ross Speedman is his real
Okay.
name. And we were having a conversation with I think last episode we were talking about what would our Star Wars names be? Maybe a couple episodes ago. Um
Oh yeah.
Ross Speedman, his character is Soars Bandim. So they just scrambled up the letters in his first and last name.
Oh, that's awesome. That actually kind of is cool.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's better than Trebor Coleman.
Trebor, that's the best one.
That's my
That's
favorite.
that's my
It's
fave.
like let's just flip Robert backwards and there we got it. And just
And
and leave the last name
it
alone.
seems like a crazy alien name now. Let's go with
Yeah.
it. Um,
Love that little were you looking for that name while we were talking this whole time?
yeah, I looked it up because I didn't think that Barney was right.
I didn't. I figured that. Yeah, I believed it was Barney for a bit until you said
Until I said his name
pretzel
was
and
Pretzel
pretzel
Head.
head. Just like, okay, where are we going now? Anyway, back to Shattered.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah.
Um, but here's the interesting part about that one. This is actually here's my point. We see it's depicted in a lot of different places, but I think the best depiction was probably that episode.
Oh, okay.
Would you agree? Would you fight me on that?
My it's weird to say
What's
your
your favorite depiction of the worst time in Star
of
Wars?
just a mass murder.
Yeah,
My
exactly.
my favorite depictions are actually, I mean, outside of the original, are from the newer stuff. My favorite depictions include from The Mandalorian, Grogu's perspective.
Yeah.
On Order 66, they kind of like blurry, like from down near the ground because he's a little shrimpy guy,
Hmm.
like that looking up that blurry, and then also the flashbacks in Obi-Wan I thought were really really good and just really well
Yeah,
done. um
that's true.
but they lack, those kind of lack storytelling and are like providing context, whereas in Shattered, like there's a lot of storytelling and
Yeah.
it assumes that you have the context.
It
So
assumes you have yeah, it does assume that you've seen it before,
yeah,
but that's actually what makes it good.
yeah,
Because I mean, this is a
it builds
four
upon.
episode, right, right. This ends up being like a 4 episode arc. You got to go back and watch the two before it, and the fight with Maul, which is epic all by itself,
Hmm.
and then this episode and the one that follows about kind of where they end up before Ahsoka then parts ways. Um, but and that's no spoiler because we got her in Rebels. We knew she
Yeah,
survived,
yeah,
but it was just like, what was her experience going through Order 66 like? Um, but I really liked it because you see it coming the whole time. The
mm,
music is
yeah,
eerie and it's unsettling and it's
yeah,
cueing like something is happening. It marries up to moments and pieces of dialogue that's in the original, so you can actually see like we're getting closer. We're getting there. It's about to happen. Um, there's hints that it's coming all along the episode until the moment that it actually does. So you're just mentally preparing for it, and it's uneasy and unsettling, and it just hurts. Every
yeah,
time. It just hurts
mm,
again all over. Um Maul's expressions and comments too throughout the whole thing, and how he's sensing what's happening, and he's like, oh my gosh, my old master did it. He's just floored by it. Um
mm-hmm.
but yeah, I just
That you're right. That's a really good moment. His moment of realization, where like just the
he never
animation,
told me
his
his plan, but
yeah, his eyes and his face, and he like sneers a little bit, and he's just
mhm.
he's a mix of impressed and surprised, and yeah, that's a good moment.
Well, and here's my last point on this. I This is one of the reasons I liked it even more. Filoni does something a little bit different that George Lucas didn't do really and he didn't have time to, frankly. So it's not like Filoni did it better. But when I watch the original, you see Commander Cody, he gets the order and then he shoots Obi-Wan. You're like, that stinks.
Yeah.
But there's no depth to it because you don't understand the history of like that relationship. You just don't see it.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't know if there's a relationship here. In this, they build upon the fact that even in some of the dialogue, that Rex and Ahsoka have this long history of working together, and every clone matters to her. She knows them by name. She has
Yeah.
experiences with them. She appreciates every single one of them,
Mm-hmm. Treats
A-
them with respect.
and then they all turn on her
Yeah.
in that moment, and so it just hurts a little bit more
Yeah.
because you understand how deep that relationship has been because you've been watching the Clone Wars for 7 seasons and
Right.
seen what they've gone through together.
Right. Right. Oh,
Um,
that's a good point.
so that to me just really makes this one even more powerful. Just the character depth and the relationship that they have together.
Yeah. Hey, let's pivot a little bit and let's talk about the effects of Order 66, perhaps as we're kind of covering the whole timeline here of like the
Yeah,
leading up to it, the execution of it. No pun intended. But then afterwards, one of the things that happens is not every Jedi, thankfully, is killed, but they can't really be Jedi out in the open anymore.
right.
They have to go into hiding. They're kind of scattered to the wind and end up in different places, and that's how we get Ben Kenobi in place of Obi-Wan Kenobi, and we
Right.
get Jedi who are hiding in different corners of the galaxy, avoiding the persecution and probably avoiding a death sentence by coming out and being Jedi out in the open. And that's how we get the Inquisitors and so on.
You
Um,
have Caleb Doom, who's changing his name to Kanan Jarrus now, so that
yep,
he
yep,
just another thing to avoid getting caught.
yeah. So you think that's like a really interesting angle of like having to go underground and having to obscure your real identity and what you are really capable of, for your protection, the protection of the people around you. But I think one of the things that they did really well over the course of, um, well, I'll keep it to the Force Awakens. One of the things I think they did really well was the impact of Order 66 was such that it drove a lot of these Jedi into total hiding and anonymity, to the
Yeah.
point where by the time we get to The Force Awakens, there are questions about what's even real and what isn't. Like
Mm,
Rey and Finn have that encounter with Han Solo, and they're talking about Luke Skywalker and stuff like that. Like it's
it was a
just
myth.
a fairy tale.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that I think is one of the interesting long-term impacts of Order 66, is that not only did it kill the Jedi, it almost killed their story and made it into fiction.
Yeah.
And you sort of you feel that in the sequel trilogy a little bit. And I think part of the sequel trilogy is like bringing it out of the myth and bringing it back into reality where it's needed.
Yeah.
And to me, like that's um like a painful long-term impact of Order 66, is kind of taking away the realness of it and making it into like some kid's story.
Well,
um
it turns the idea of like a force user into an artifact. Like,
yeah,
you know, they used to, provide peace to the galaxy. They were stretched all over it, you know, just protecting it
yeah,
and keeping order, and in a very different way, like in, not empire type way,
yeah.
in keeping order, but now a whole galaxy has gone generations without knowing what it's like to have, um what it's have to like to have multiple force users
and
around
that
you
and
to
that
support you.
hope that comes
Right.
from the Jedi will come and help us.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Who you gonna call? You don't know anymore. They've taken them all out. Like,
Nobody, it's up to you.
yeah, not Ghostbusters. Um, sorry, I
Or
thought you were gonna go
Ghostbusters,
there.
I don't know, you could try.
I
Yeah.
thought you were gonna pull at that one. You
Nope,
didn't.
nope. That sounds like it's super long distance though,
uh,
if you're making that call.
in the days of Ghostbusters, there was something called long distance
I was
calling.
gonna
So,
say, is that still a thing? Can I
not
think I
really.
no, okay, all right.
I don't think so. You can call other countries for free now.
Anyone?
I can call Canada for free on my plan.
I can too.
I don't know if it's anyone, but at the same time, you can do like Zoom calls and stuff like that with anyone anywhere in Europe.
Yeah,
Anyway, we're off the deep end again. Let's pull it back.
yeah.
Um, I wrote
That was your
down
fault. That was your tangent.
that one was my fault. I'll take a. I'm allowed one for every like 10 of yours, apparently.
That's the ratio. You're right.
It's about that, right?
Yeah, which means
Um,
I'm only up to 7, so I got to hit you with 3 more before we're done.
you must, if you're keeping count, that's pretty. You sure it isn't 6?
I'm not sure at all.
Um, no, but so I wrote down I only got like a dozen that we've
Okay.
seen so far, and they're kind of added to a little bit. Like we just found out Gunji survived, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that one was an interesting one too, because he's running from these droids that are trying to kill him and getting on a ship with clones that also recently tried to kill him.
Oh,
So
nowhere to run.
rough. Nowhere to go. Like you're just never feeling safe. There's a line that Hunter says, he's a Jedi. He isn't safe anywhere. And
Mm,
that's, you realize, like, just it's a good reminder of what all the surviving Jedi are going through at this moment.
yeah. Oh,
So,
it
but
stings.
it's a great episode. But you've also got the likes of Yocasta. Do you know Yocasta survived?
Yeah, I think so. I think we came across that because we had an episode with her name in it.
Yeah, we did. Yeah. She's in one of the Soul comics, the
Oh,
Darth
cool,
Vader
cool,
comics.
cool,
I'll have to let you
cool.
borrow. Cool, 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 cool. But yeah, like you've got Cal. Like we talked about Jedi Survivor coming up. Cal
Yeah.
Kestis and Sarah Junda. Is that how you say her name? Um, Two Jedi that also survived the purge. So I just wonder, is there anybody else that we're gonna see survive? Are we gonna see more?
We very well may. Not sure who to expect, but like think about in Obi-Wan, the path and the
Yeah,
all the different Jedi
yeah,
names that are scrawled in the wall there. I think any one of them that fit the timeline are potentially in play to come back in some other media or something. But um,
yeah.
but yeah, there's quite a few survivors. But on I think on the Wikipedia page for Order 66, they list all of the names of the Jedi who didn't make it, who we know the names of, and
Okay.
it's just like you're scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, and it's
Okay,
sort
so it's
of
a lot more than a dozen. A dozen is what I came up without any aid.
oh no, no it's I'm talking about the ones who didn't make it.
Oh, didn't make it.
Yeah, all the
Oh,
ones that they
oh,
know the names of that did not make it,
yeah,
and that's a really long list. And I was
yeah.
looking at it on my phone and just scrolling for felt like a few minutes,
Well,
but
then you got that scene in Obi-Wan where he passes by all of them in like those crystallized states, right? Like
yes,
in like that tomb area. Jeez, that was
yeah,
unsettling.
that it was a trophy room, I think.
That's exactly when you saw like
Ugh,
a youngling in there. Oh,
oh,
I mean,
shivers.
and it starts out with what was his name? Nari, the in the first episode where it's the one that runs into Kenobi and he's like,
Oh
"What
yeah, yeah,
you
yeah,
need to
yeah,
help me."
yeah.
And Kenobi doesn't, and then next thing you know, he dies. Like
Yep, yeah.
visitors find him. So
Ugh,
yeah, it's rough.
yeah.
How do we end this on a positive note?
I should have saved Ross Beedman for the very end here.
You should have. Yeah, that's your fault. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no, I will take that one, but no, we'll just say that this is one of the most pivotal moments in all of Star Wars, and unfortunately, it's not a happy one. But the
Okay, I've got it. I've got how we make this
yeah, please
turn
bail me
this
out
into a
here.
happy one. Yeah, no problem. Um,
No
one of the
problem.
one of the reasons why Episode 3 is one of my all-time favorites, not just of Star Wars, just any movie. Um, I just believe that every time that you have like a really happy ending, um, the only way that it ever feels truly happy is if it ever gets dark. If they ever have to go through a trial that really tests all
Yeah.
of their abilities.
Okay.
And if I think of, you know, I'll say episode 6, even though I know it goes further into, Rise of Skywalker. We
Yeah.
could easily say it's both of those. In order for those endings to feel as positive as you want them to,
Yeah.
uh, you have to go through something really dark. And remember, we got episode 6 before we got episode 3, and so like that felt
Mm,
great. But
yeah.
I feel once we got episode 3, I ended up liking the recovery, the redemption in episode 6 much more because now I knew how
Mm,
bad it got,
beautifully
how
said.
how dark and how low we had to go, how low the galaxy had to go, and so it made the high of episode 6 even higher than it was originally. And you don't get that if you don't get episode 3 in the Order 66.
Mm. And that, our friends, is the balance of the Force, right?
There you go.
Yeah, beautifully said. So on that note, what are we talking about next time?
We are gonna prepare ourselves for the Mandalorian season 3.
Yes, which is so we're going to record another couple of weeks. Mandalorian season 3 starts on March 1st, which is just after we're going to be recording again. So we're going to try to help you guys get ready by going back and doing the hard work for you of rewatching Mandalorian season 1 and 2 and Boba
You're
Fett.
welcome.
Yeah, glad we could help. And Boba Fett,
Only
which
altruistic motives here.
yes. The book of Boba Fett, which we were talking about, is basically season 2.5 of The
Yep.
Mandalorian. So we're going to go back and we're going to watch those, and we're going to try to glean some new wisdom from it, but also help connect the dots so that you can jump right in and enjoy Mandalorian season 3 with that momentum. Although I think Disney and Lucasfilm have gotten really good at the recap. Like
Oh, for sure.
the recap that went into
Obi-Wan.
Obi-Wan, like that on its own
Mhm.
is one of the best things on TV in the last few years. So I think they're going to help us out, I'm sure, but we are here to help too, and we're going to set you up for what is going to be a terrific viewing experience because we're gonna have you ready for it.
Yeah, so if you want to go and do the rewatch with us and catch up and
it.
do it, we will do
Do
it
it
together.
now.
Get to the chopper. I don't want to go into that story, and I won't either. But that's a story. I do have a story about that line
Okay.
specifically for another time.
We'll save it.
But yes, get ready for that. We will bring that to you next time, just in time for season 3 of The Mandalorian to kick off.
So exciting.
Maybe a little bit of speculation, but we'll keep that to a minimum.
Yeah, and we'll be thoughtful about what we're guessing about. But on that note, thanks for listening. We appreciate you spending some time with us or watching if you're on the Baraxium YouTube channel, where many of our episodes can be found, as well as quick shot previews, spoiler-free previews of the Star Wars comic books that are coming out that week, and some other terrific stuff on there. Like what was your hot take thing called? The unrefined Baraxium?
Unrefined Baraxium. I gotta do another one at some point.
Yeah, go for it, because that was a pretty entertaining one. So lots of great videos on the Baraxium YouTube channel, and that is our YouTube home with our Baraxium crew. But on Twitter, you can find us at Star Bros Podcast. Tag us in your memes. Reach out. Let us know what you would like us to talk about next. We're always happy to take those suggestions. You can shoot us an email, thestarbrospodcast@gmail.com, and you can find us wherever it is that you get your podcasts. So Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever it is you're listening, we're probably out there. Leave a review if you like it, and be in touch. We really like interacting with folks who enjoy the show.
Let us know what you want us talking about one of these days. We just kind of come up with it as we as we think of it and as it comes into our head. So if there's something else you want us to chat about, let us know. We'll add it to the list.
Yeah,
we've done that in the past for a few, so love to keep doing that.
Yeah.
Thank you as always for listening. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Jan,
thank you, Ben.
Thank you. Whoa. We both had the idea of thanking each other.
Yeah. Thank you, man.
Of course. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, man. I appreciate you.
I see you.
I feel seen.
Good. I want you to feel heard one last time. So why don't you take us away and scream in my ear for old time's sake?
Thank you. I won't scream, but I will turn up the volume a little bit because it's an important thing. So I will say, it's a wrap.
Yay. Ow, my ears.
Ouch.